Hello, everybody. Ed Worley watching down in SoCal. Andrew Pindar from the balcony of, I saw his discourse on Facebook about Loch Lomond or Lake Geneva or any of the other names. Historically, that lake, famously cool lake, has been called over the years Roger Vaughn. Hi, Roger. Coach yourself to win. That must be John Emmett. Gordon Smith in chilly and damp Denmark. Greg Phillips from the Gold Coast in Oz. Welcome to all of you. Carlos Aviz, nice to see him back from Brasilia down in the southern hemisphere in Brazil. Andy Corna, there's a new name. I don't recognize. Welcome, Andy. Ted Ryman in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa. Alistair Murray, we won't have a AAAA today. I didn't have time, but he's submitted a couple of great ones we've got in the can. Alistair Murray, that is. He'll be off riding doing some during the show, but he'll catch us in replay as we count it down to the start of this one, show number 612. Welcome. Everybody, welcome to show number 612 for the 25th. Always have to look at the graphic. The 25th of April, Tuesday the 25th. I have some good news and bad news. The bad news is that Julia's not here, so I don't have her with us for today's show. Hi, Peter Douglas, checking in. The good news is she's fine, no problem. She just is upstairs in the Commodore's suite, and the elevator here at the Beach Street Yacht Club is on the proverbial fritz. So we couldn't get her down here for the show today. She'll be with us, no doubt, on Friday. And the elevator man, the other part of the good news is the elevator man is coming this afternoon to fix it, or so we hope. We are, as usual, here at Studio B in the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District, where it's actually one of the few days of summer we'll have. As you know how it is in San Francisco, the famous saying, the coldest winter day I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco, or something like that. Supposedly Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens said that. But we do have a 70-plus Fahrenheit day today. It's beautiful in the marina, and we'll get... Julia's upstairs. She's enjoying the view. Well, no, that's Gordon Smith saying to her, enjoy the view. Yeah, she's upstairs looking out into the backyard here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and no doubt on her computer. So, Julia, we're missing you already. I probably have already misspoken 4 or 5 times, but I don't have Julia here to correct me. Welcome to the show. We're going to celebrate Chris Poole's win, his team, Riptide Racing at Congressional Cup, and it should be a fun one. We've got a lot on here as the sailing season heats up in the Northern Hemisphere and still carrying on in good. In fact, this is a rather Aussie-centric show. You'll see why when we get into it. I do want to start by thanking Andy Rose, Gulf Cup guru, Balboa Yacht Club's leader down there for the Gulf Cup for many, many years. He was on the show, as most of you will know, on Friday for to announce the names. It was a world exclusive. The kids, the teams that have been, skippers at least, who have been invited to this year's 56th edition of the prestigious International Youth Match Racing Championship, hosted annually by Balboa Yacht Club down in Newport Beach, known as the Governor's Cup. We'll be doing the live television again this year, 10 shows over the week from Monday through Saturday, press conferences, my Tuesday show, morning shows, and the semifinals and finals on the water live on Friday and Saturday of that week, last week of July, more or less. Congratulations to this group of sailors. The event is the 24th through the 29th of July. A record number of 8 nations. First time we think, there's been a Brazilian sailor. We established that on the show the other day, but first time we think for Canada. And welcome back to France, who's been here several times of late. The Kiwis, of course, the Aussies, and Tom Higgins from Ireland is coming. And The kids we know are terrific. The kids we don't know, we hear from people like John Emmett and others of you on here, the Fosey, saying that it's a first-class list of kids. We're looking forward to it very much indeed. Welcome to all of you. Gordon Smith saying 100 years ago today, Shackleton set off from Elephant Island to sail to South Georgia to seek recuse for the rest of his shipwrecked crew. Rescue, I think that means, Gordon Smith. Thank you for that. And now here we are. We're at it again. Dark and stormy in Austin, Texas. Boomer Bland, J. Frederick Bland, welcome to you. Graham Sweeney's on in Yale, Scotland. I see Coach Yourself to Win is John Emmett on his Facebook page. He's in the air, and it's been the first 2 days there. It has, as you probably saw in the show notes at the top of the show, I said that John, and the rest have been blown away. And they are, it looks a little lighter tomorrow, John was saying when we were texting back and forth this morning. But we've got the update from the air and some good news for North Americans, at least. Both Canadians and the American ILCO 6 ladies are doing well indeed. Now, do you know, since our last show, just a couple of show notes, Louis Vuitton, who has been a key sponsor of the America's Cup, was from '83 until the last go-around, when Prada took over as the sponsor of the Challenger Selection Series. I note today that the business press are saying that LVMH is now the French luxury giant. It's a global giant, and LVMH, Moet, Hennessy, Louis Vuitton just became the first European company with a market value exceeding $500 billion. $500 billion. So bravo Zulu to them. Maybe that's because they haven't been sponsoring sailing. Maybe it's as a result of all that sailing sponsorship. And maybe it's just because Mr. Arnault, the principal owner, who's now apparently the richest dude in the world, $212 billion, even ahead right now, at least, of Elon Musk, because his Tesla stock is a bit depressed. Therefore, his net worth is a bit depressed as well. A couple other notes since our last show. This, of course, the famous Harry Belafonte, who died today, or overnight, I guess. Mr. Belafonte, who's an American, but of Afro-Jamaican parents and so on, mixed race, but a fabulous singer, actor, and so on. 1927 to 2023. So what's that make him? 94, 96, I guess he died. And he was called the Calypso King, but as you probably know, he had a lot of songs that were sailing related. Not that I could find that he himself was a sailor, although you can't spend a lot of time in Jamaica, I suppose, without being a bit of a sailor. But his songs end up on every list when they list these top 10 boating or sailing songs, or the top 25 boating or sailing songs. If you're going to do what's that genre of music called? Yacht rock? It's not even yacht rock. It's just sailing, boating music. Can you, Fosey, name his most famous boating related songs? Jeff Kitson is on. Greetings from the Great Lakes state of Michigan, my home state, where they have a few more snowflakes there today. And can anybody name Harry Belafonte's probably most famous song? Remember the Banana Boat song? Yeah, there's the Rick Banner got it. Hi, Rick. I'm not going to get I'm going to talk about Rick's suggestion. Day-o, day. I'm sorry, I'm wrecking that, Ted Ryman. But yes, the Banana Boat song, which apparently was about the workers loading or offloading bananas off the boat all night when it was dark and hence cooler in Jamaica. And then the man came along in the morning to count, the tally man, to see how many they had onloaded, before they could then go home. And they had a shot of rum, apparently, before they went home. Do you hate it when your yacht hits a rock? Thank you, Underpin. So, yeah, he had a lot of different sailing songs. Mark Organ Reed. Hi, Mark. Long time. Speaking of which, no naming sponsor as of yet for the America's Cup since Prada's option was not picked up. Good point. And Christopher Gillingham and his wife Jane are saying hi from Leamington. Ahoy from Leamington. Nice to see you back, Christopher. And it did snow. Mark's also in Michigan, at least often is. He's also out and about, but over on the west side of Michigan. He said, yes, it did snow here this morning on April 25th. Global warming. Rest in peace, Mr. Belafonte, the Calypso King, who apparently passed away. He was a good. Here's a note from Clayton Embley. He, Harry Belafonte. Did I spell his name wrong, or did you, Clayton? Was a good mate of Philip Walwyn, the builder of the 12-meter yacht Kate, built in 2005. Yeah, he must have done some sailing, having been, as I said, he grew up. He was born and raised in New York and died in New York City in the Upper West Side. But he obviously of Jamaican descent. Mark Reed is saying he'll see us here next week for Sail GP. That's good. That, of course, is next weekend here. And tell you what, the parking lot at St. Francis, you can't even get down to Golden Gate Yacht Club, I don't think. That whole stretch between St. Francis and Golden Gate Yacht Club, the grassy area, the part where they're building the VIP and the media center and so on, it's in full flight to get ready for next weekend's event. On a more somber note, we note today, it's the 26th Down Under now, but we note that the 25th each year is celebrated in Australia, New Zealand, and a few other countries. And it's, you probably all know, it's a ceremony that takes place in most of those Anzac cities. I mean, Australia and New Zealand. This was the dawn ceremony this morning at the Auckland War Memorial Museum. This is a shot, lest we forget, from Alistair Murray's hometown of Melbourne. It's the Victoria Shrine of Remembrance. This also from this morning. This from out in Perth and WA from this morning, the 25th. And I've been there as well. Perth State War Memorial in beautiful Kings Park. And of course, they're celebrating on the 25th, as they do every year, Anzac Day. This was the first Anzac parade, apparently, on the 25th of April, 1916 in Sydney. What street is that in Sydney? I saw no. But Anzac Day is a day of remembrance. It's a national day in Australia and New Zealand that broadly commemorates all Australians and New Zealanders, quote, who served and died in all wars, conflicts, and peacekeeping operations, and the contribution and suffering of all those who have served, unquote. Observed on the 25th of April each year, Anzac Day was originally devised to honor the members of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, hence Anzac, who served in the Gallipoli campaign in Turkey, their first engagement in the First World War. It did not go particularly well. We don't need to go into those gory details, but it's fabulous to see all these remembrances. They're dawn ceremonies, and they go on through the day, and then in the evening, the veterans, gather in pubs and are saluted and celebrated. We've done that down when I've been living particularly in New Zealand in that period. So happy if you're celebrating it. It's not really happy, but have a solemn and good Remembrance Day down under. Show number 612. Any other comments before we get well into it? Graham Sweeney saying today is the 80th anniversary of the Shetland Bus Memorial Day. The Norwegian naval vessel, how do you say that, Nist? Meaning Spark is here. She has a top speed of 60 knots. Graham's been telling me about the I think we talked about this on Friday, the Russian trawlers that are out there, the Russian trawlers that are apparently spying on that on the North Sea and on the Shetland Islands. Maybe they're checking up on you, Graham. I sure would. Come, Mr. Tallyman, rest in peace. I met him in the early 60s, Don Lunabos is saying. Don, a veteran of Hollywood and Las Vegas, would have met him. Nice. Okay, bravo Zulu to Chris Poole and his team, but we'll get into that in the B block. First, I want to get back to our normal flow of things and get to our regular Coach's Corner with our super Fozy John Emmett. And before we do his report from today in the air, here is an interview he did yesterday with Charlotte Rose of the U.S. team, who's got I think a 181. She's at the top of the ILCA 6 standings so far early in that French Olympic Regatta 2023 at Hyères.
Fresh off the water, day one at the French Olympic Week. How was your day, Charlotte?
It was pretty good. I had a pretty good first race. I won the first race, and then the second race didn't really have a great start. I actually flipped at the gate, And
For us non-Americans, explain flipped.
capsized at the gate and fell back a couple, but I managed to gain back on the second B, and I think I probably finished top 10.
So solid first day. I mean, I'm looking at the boat park over there. I'm wondering if the Nacras are going to be looking at having 2 days off. Big breeze for the Ilkas. Thoughts for tomorrow?
The forecast says it's supposed to be a little bit less windier, but still pretty up there. And I love the big breeze, so I'm ready for anything. So
You're enjoying this at the moment. I mean, it's really nice in the air because we have the blue sky, the sunshine, and the strong wind. What's your build-up been for this? Because it's not that long since the Princess Sophia regatta.
Yeah, I actually took some time off, spent time with my family in England, spent time with my grandparents, and needed some time off mentally and physically, and came back here and have some process goals to work on. And yeah, that was pretty much my lead up for this event, and pretty happy sailing. So you know, good mind is good sailing. So
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect start. Looks like it might be a game of 2 halves. Thoughts for later on in the week? Because Gulfleet, everything always gets different, but it looks a very different forecast as well.
yeah, a little bit, I think, less wind, but you know, I came here to work on my starts especially, and lighter breeze. So later in the week, if it's lighter, then that means it's good for me to work on what I need to work on. So
Lots of positives and means a worthy champion. Thanks so much for time. I'm sure you want to take your rig down.
thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty tired.
So that's yesterday. A nice interview that John had with Charlotte Rose of the USA. It's nice to see the Americans, at least early on, doing a little bit better in Olympic competition than in the past. Nice interview by John. And that was yesterday. They had Mistral conditions, or I guess technically a Mistral, really windy. And it had the same again today. And by the way, I also noticed that our Fozy, Sarah Douglas from Canada, also sailing in the Ilka 6, she's got a 129. So she's second, standing second so far in the Ilka 6s. The Brits are doing well in the Ilka 7s. The Aussies are having a pretty good go, and we're going to play a video from the Aussies here in a sec. But we appreciate John keeping us posted as he flits about about the world doing these events. So congratulations to Sarah Douglas. Oh, Canada, Fozy. She's been on the show, I don't know, 2 or 3 times. Been our great pleasure to have her on. This is the report. Thanks, Alistair Murray, for sending this along from the Australian sailing team as of yesterday.
Well, this is Hier's Regatta Day 1. We've got a lovely sunny day, and in classic Hier's form, we've got the strong Mistral breeze going to blow. Yeah, the guys are conscious that they haven't actually spent a lot of time in really windy breeze so far this season. Having grown up with a lot of it, I think they'll do just fine.
Last night we were talking about racing here a few years ago, and Fernando Echevarri went downwind with no spinnaker and won the race. And Jason Waterhouse said, I would prefer not to win the race and go down without a spinnaker. And then today, I saw someone hoist a kite and then drop the kite, went goose winging like a star sailor.
All tactical positioning, Bundy. If you bear away and they strive set, you know, I was just defending the position. We came away with a win in our fleet, which we're really happy about. Very Australian conditions, windy, rough, sunny though, which is nice. And unfortunately, the race committee said that's enough for today. So 1 race away and a good one for us. So happy to start the regatta off with a bang.
Oh, in Yellow Fleet, Casey and I had some good nashos going on. We were with each other pretty much all day, so I'd say we both had a pretty decent time out there.
Yeah, we've put a pretty solid block in over summer. We've got some hiking legs, it's just about switching them on. I had this huge nosedive pre-start, so it was pretty loose on the downwind, so that was actually pretty fun.
Thanks to Alistair Murray, president of Australian Sailing, for sending along that video. And again, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Bravo salute to Australian Sailing, to any of the other federations that are doing these sorts of videos. It's got to be great promotion for the athletes, great for fundraising, and just great for morale. U.S. Sailing does, everybody posts these little quickie things on Instagram. And Australian Sailing, by the way, this same video was available in a portrait format, up and down format, also on Instagram. But it's so much nicer when they do it 16:9 and you can watch it, on your phone or your widescreen TV, or I can play it here on the show. Which brings us to John's report from today, the second day of the Mistral, in the air.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. Hope you're well, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. When you subscribe, it means you're going to get all the latest news and you'll know it whenever a video is released. Well, you might be able to tell I'm here in Hyères. It's been a windy couple of days, perhaps not quite so obvious from the background, but it's been full on, and I think the cream will rise to the top. We have 3 days of qualification, and at which point we go into the final series, and that's squeaky bum time for a lot of people, because as I've said many times, this is a very important regatta, but especially this year. So yeah, I'm standing here rather than walking around the boat park for 2 reasons. I walk round at the end of the day, and with all the ilkas there, I guess there's around 300, there's almost not enough space to walk, especially if I'm trying to hold a camera at arm's length. And much as I thought the Fozy would enjoy me falling in the water, that would probably mean there'll be no video on Friday, which doesn't do anyone any good. Trying to be there when the sailors are there is absolutely a pain for them, because the situation is there's just not a lot of room. Nearly 100 Ilka 6s when they were coming in, that was busy, and then the Ilka 7s, wow, it really is amazing, just such a busy fleet. The high performance classes, the 9ers and the Nacras have obviously struggled to get the racing in quite as much as the Ilkas, which are a bit more robust, but the race committee, as you would expect, have done an absolutely amazing job, and I've really enjoyed being here. I think this is what sailing is all about, and this is probably the most difficult year of the 4-year cycle in some respects, because you've got the maximum amount of depth. Next year the regatta will be absolutely crucial, but by that stage some of the top sailors will have stopped, and yeah, the year after that will be very quiet for a lot of reasons. So if you're thinking about campaigning, you really need to plan ahead with your education needs and all the rest of it. I've been here doing the daily interviews. I hope you enjoy them. They're on the John Emmett Sailing YouTube channel. The reason I put them there, because you get to see the full quality of the video, as opposed to when they're on Instagram or Facebook, etc., where they get really heavily compressed. So I'm going to call it a day for now. I hope to join you on the show. Time difference in Europe, not so much my friend, but we'll see you on the show, I hope.
It's nice that we can keep John out of the pubs on Tuesdays and Fridays, at least. Either he's already been there. What time is it? CET. It's in Barcelona, 22:23, so same in, it's not even 11 o'clock yet. He can carry on. Thanks, John Emmett. I agree, Gordon Smith, really nice. And that is the golden hour. Look how nice that shot is in the evening. And considering how windy it is, John did a great job of the audio. He must have buried his mic under his jacket and had a dead kitty on it too. Had some good wind screening on it. Nice light balance. Steve Gruber's asking, what is the use by date of these croutons? Hey, how do you know there's even croutons in there? How do you know we haven't already eaten them? We could have eaten them, and you wouldn't even know it. Or it could be a new one. We could have, replaced them. No, we will never eat these. These came from a Fozy. They were the late, great Dewey Hines, Commodore Hines at St. Francis, brought those over one night when he heard us talking about croutons on the show. And his lovely wife and dear friend Darlene Hines gave those to us. And then you know who gave us these? Pimp My Salad croutons. Those came from Peter Stevenson, from Pedro Foiling Sailor. These are real Australian vegan cheese and herb. Look at, you can see it up here in the corner. Made in Australia. From Peter Foiling Sailor, who's on here, of course. And so is this croutonic. He calls this the croutonic corner. I don't know how well you can see the corner here, but that is indeed from Peter Stevenson as well. Our corner set piece here at the Sailing Illustrated desk in Studio B, where Julia is not with us today. If you're just joining us, she's fine, doing just fine, but the elevator here that runs up to her Commodore suite and down to the main floor and stops here at my level is not operational, so we don't have a Julia, but we do appreciate John, as always, with his John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. His report, which comes in, I don't think he's missed a show since we started this up 3 years ago. So nice stuff. John also saying the front is see-through. We would know if it had gone. Oh, dear. And John likes to say, please like, follow, and share, subscribe, whatever it is called on either YouTube or Facebook, and join us. Mostly so you get the notification that we are going live and the reminder that we are here. And indeed, you will be able to just click on your phone or your device and go right to the show. Number 612 today, Tuesday, the 25th of April, 2023. Welcome. And we do want to say bravo Zulu and congratulations to Scott Poole and his team. In fact, everybody at that Regatta Congressional Cup, as you know from watching the show on Friday when we switched live to the racing, they were in the semis. And Andy Rose did a great job, as usual, as our commentator. In fact, there was, I shouldn't say this, but people were so happy with Andy's commentary, they asked me if I wouldn't do a watch party on Saturday and get Andy to do commentary again for the racing on Saturday. But, you know, they do a good job down there on Saturday. We don't want to tie everybody up. But, yeah, bravo Zulu to Long Beach Yacht Club and to Chris Poole for winning and winning every race, as you will have seen in the show notes. Unbelievably amazing performance. As far as any of us know, never been equal. Never has anyone gone through the Congressional Cup in the, the 58th, and gone undefeated throughout the entire thing. So bravo Zulu to Chris. This was the results after the double round robins. As you know, they sail a 2 rounds robin where they sail a 1 race against each of the other 9 teams. And Chris came out of that, as you can see here from this graphic, 18-0. Ian Williams, the defending champ, was on 14-4. Jeppe Borsch, we don't know yet if it's Borsch or Bork, do we? Gordon Smith? Jeppe from Denmark, nice guy. He was 13-5, and Nick Egnot Johnson was on 9-9, beating Eric Monin from Svitza, Switzerland, on a countback on a tiebreak. So Nick Egnot Johnson was chosen by Chris Poole in the semis, and Chris went on undefeated, beat him 3-0, as you can see in that graphic, while Jeppe Borsch won 3-0 over Ian Williams. So made short shrift of both of those semis, as you know, if you were watching with us on Friday, because we were, all of a sudden, it was over kind of at 2:30, the semifinals, because they went 3-0 in both sides of the semis, in both matches. So bravo Zulu to Chris Poole, and he wisely chose, I think, Nikki J for that semi, and on that 18-0, and with support from our Fozy John Sangmeister and Gladstone's Long Beach, Ian's team went on to have a valiant but losing effort. A lot of people thought he would win again. I actually thought maybe this time it was going to be somebody else, either Chris Poole or maybe even Nikki J. And it was Jeppe Borsch who got to the finals. And Gordon Smith had picked Jeppe. Of course, Gordon lives in Denmark, and he's very fond of Jeppe. And this guy's also in his team. Terrific sailors, great for the sport in Denmark and beyond. So bravo Zulu to them and their runner-up. And here's how it all went down with a video from Long Beach Yacht Club and the World Match Racing Tour.
We've reached the finals of the 58th Congressional Cup Regatta in Long Beach, California. The top 2 teams made it after a week of tough competition, and the Belmont Pier is packed, full of anticipation and excitement. The day first began with a traditional fleet race among the bottom 6 teams, which this year was sailed in very light breeze, but nonetheless it entertained the crowds watching to set the mood. Then it was into the action of the main event, with the best of 5 final to see which team would win the coveted Congressional Cup. USA's Chris Poole, the #1 ranked team in the world, or the #4th ranked team of Jeppe Borch's team from Denmark. In lighter than ideal race conditions, Chris Poole managed the pre-start superbly in his first match, slamming the Danes with an early penalty, leaving him then free to sail the course, staying ahead and notching up his first point on the scorecard. In match 2, it was Poole on the receiving end of a penalty in the pre-start from the young Danish team. But in short order, they soon saw the stern of Poole's boat as they headed upwind. Around the course, there was nothing Bork could do to rein in Poole, as they still had a penalty to shed before the finish to win. Coming down the final run, Poole had enough room to complete his penalty turn and still cross ahead, and so he moved up 2-0 on the scorecard.
It was a little bit of a tricky race, light air, kite set on the entry, and then we went to down to the boundary. Sorry about my guys talking, we're debriefing. And then didn't do a good job staying close enough to the boundary, and yet they was able to hook us, but we were happy with that to go for position and get some speed. And then we just got off the line, and Joachim called a great first beat, started to stretch away, and the traffic helped get us enough of a gap to do a penalty turn at the finish.
Meanwhile, the petite final for the 3rd and 4th place teams was also underway, with reigning World Match Racing Tour champion Nick Egnott Johnson from New Zealand scoring 2 straight wins over Ian William from Great Britain, who was likely still reeling from his 3-0 defeat yesterday at the hands of Bork. And now the members of the Long Beach Yacht Club and fans watching around the world ready themselves for a crucial 3rd match. Could Bork score a point and end Poole's incredible unbeaten streak to keep his hopes alive in the regatta? Off the starting line, it was close, but Poole took the right-hand side and looked to be in better pressure. Little by little, he widened the gap, and by the final mark rounding, he had a solid lead. Bork knew well that the trailing boat can often come back downwind, but Poole's team managed the run perfectly, soaking downwind to the finish line to the massive cheers of the spectator crowd. An unprecedented, unbeaten week with 24 wins from 24 matches. It was, in his words, a perfect regatta. For Bork, it was so close and yet so far in his first Congressional Cup final, but he's sure to be back.
Well, yeah, huge congrats to Chris and his team. I know he's been wanting this for so long and he's worked really hard. They were clearly way better than us today. They sailed really, really well, and we didn't show up for the game. Sorry about we couldn't give the spectators what they came for, but yeah, they were just very, very good and totally deserve it. So well done to them.
And a champagne swim for an ecstatic Chris Poole. On to the awards presentation at the Long Beach Yacht Club with silver medals for Bork and his team. And for the first time in the event's history, Chris Poole donned the famed Crimson Blazer as he and his team received their gold medals and had the honor of lifting the Congressional Cup trophy, adding his name to the long list of historic match race winners. Congratulations to Chris Poole and his Riptide racing team with an unbeaten record, scoring valuable points toward the World's Match Racing Tour title. And the first major event of the year, concluding yet another historic Congressional Cup here in Long Beach, California.
I thought one of the best videos that Long Beach Yacht Club, Congressional Cup, World Match Racing Tour, maybe that's because our Fozy James Pleasance is giving them some advice. James is up here in San Francisco now, by the way, for the first stop on the Women's Match Racing, World Match Racing Tour. Yeah, Gordon Smith and I were discussing whether it's Bork, which is the way Tucker Thompson, the commentator, has been pronouncing it. I noticed that on Friday's show when we were watching then. And some people say, no, it's probably Borsch. It's probably like the German. In different parts of the country, it's pronounced with the hard Bork or the Borsch, something in between that, perhaps in different parts of the country, as it is in German. Having lived in Germany for all those years, I know that the North and the South pronounce the CH differently. Yeah, Steve Gruber is saying Poole's team was really fast, and it was nice, Ed Worley, your observation about the light touch he had on the helm. He just had kind of the two fingers on the wheel sitting on the leeward side and the light going, and really looked like he had the boat dialed in. Did I call him Scott Poole? You know, I've had to correct myself in doing the graphics, the lower thirds, any number of times, because I coached a kid, and he's still a Facebook friend. I've stayed in touch with him and some of these other kids that we coached in hockey back in Michigan, and there was a kid named Scott Poole, and he's a good guy and a long time friend, and I can't get Scott Poole and Chris Poole. I keep getting them in my own decrepit brain mixed up. So apologize to Chris if I called you Scott, and probably did more than once. Thank you, Pindar and others, for correcting me. Going here into the rest of this, as you heard, in the Petit Finale, Ian Williams lost. I don't know why we keep saying lost. Nick E.J. beat him 2-0. Bit of a surprise because Ian's been so strong in this event for so long. But, I said on Friday's show, he's getting a little long, perhaps, in the tooth. Maybe he'll come back and win it next year. But Bravo Zulu also to Nick E.J. and his team from the RNZ from New Zealand. And that's Ian Williams' team, whose sponsor is China One Ningbo. And as I said, also supported by our Fozy John Sangmeister. I know Ian stayed with the Sangmeister family. They're just around the corner from Long Beach Yacht Club. Beautiful home they have there on, I guess that's Alamitos Bay, technically. And congrats also to Nick E.J., Knott's Racing. They were 9-9 coming out of the rounds robin, and I suspect Nick is going to win this thing probably sooner than later. Sportsmanship throughout. This is a screen grab I took when I was watching the finals right after that final race on Saturday before they went ashore. And the Borsch Bork team, the Danish team, came by and gave them a cheer to Chris Poole's team, Riptide Racing, and then they went on the dock and had a nice chit and a chat there. Thanks to the various photographers. Ian Roman from World Match Racing Tour provided most of these photos, I guess. So back at the club, I did get the lower third right. Chris Poole and Jeppe Borsch, they're having a natter on the dock. This is a fun regatta, and it's nice that they end it now on Saturday night so that you can have a nice prize giving. Nobody has to worry about getting up and going to work, although you have a travel day for most of these teams, either Saturday night or Sunday morning. I wish clubs would tell us the names of the people on these teams and put names with faces. I want to thank Chris Poole. I put this on my Facebook this morning because I said I have these names and I don't know if I have them in the right order. You can only go on Facebook and start looking up people. It takes forever, and I'm a lazy journalist like everybody else. Actually, I was pretty pressed for time this morning given the elevator problems we had here. But bravo Zulu to Chris Poole in the middle with the Crimson Blazer, and Matt Cornwall on the left, Luke Payne, Malcolm Parker, Bernardo Freitas, and then on the far right, Joachim Aschenbrenner, also from Denmark, and another guy who's a Gov Cup. We know him from the Gov Cup and beyond. Bravo Zulu to them. Thank you to Chris Poole for helping me get those names in the right order. I trust they are now. And a magnificent performance to win all what? They won 18 plus 3 in the semi plus 3. So they won 24, went 24-0, right? Is that right? I think that's right. 24-0. Bravo Zulu. We're going to try to get Scott on the show. I've offered him any Tuesday or Friday that he can come on. He's a busy boy with the other racing events and particularly the match racing events. And we'll see if we can get him on here and find out a little bit more about what makes this guy tick, the brilliant sailor that he and his team obviously are. What do we have here for comments? A lot of comments. Pindar, I don't think it's an age issue with Ian and crew, more a collective lack of, fair enough, recent sailing and associated ring rustiness. Chris Poole had a top talent team of currently active sailors, and it showed. Good point, Andrew. Scott or his brother Chris? Chris Poole is the sailor. Scott Poole is the hockey player, who's a lot older by now than Chris Poole. Any other comments? We could just call him JB. Okay, good idea, Gordon Smith. Really nice regatta. Ed Worley saying it. Long Beach Yacht Club does do a terrific job with, as I said on Friday's show, 300 plus volunteers running the whole thing. They're not perfect, nobody is, but a nice job by that club, Long Beach Yacht Club. The Ocean Race, leg 4 from Itajaí up to Newport is underway. Got underway on Sunday. That is the leg. It's only 5,000, a little more than 5,000 miles, so a lot shorter than the previous leg 3 from Ted Ryman's hometown of Cape Town across to Itajaí around those capes. We told you on Friday about the in-port race that 11th Hour Racing won. Biotherm second, Team Elites third, Holson PR. These don't really count for much. This is tie breaks in case there's tie break in the main standings at the end of the regatta. But it's nice promotion for the event, nice for the locals to see racing up more or less, depending upon the venue, up close and personal. And that that import race was on Friday. The 11th hour won it in, as we said, and leg 4 to Newport started on Sunday. They had a nice village as usual there, and some 350,000 people visited the Ocean Live Park in Itajaí this month to celebrate the Ocean Race stopover. That wasn't all on Sunday. In fact, I don't know what the weather was like Sunday. It was I thought a little thin, but maybe the weather was a bit dreary. Nice pictures, though. You can see a pretty good crowd here as they're about to dock out on Sunday for leg 4 of the Ocean Race as the 5-boat Amoca fleet set out from Itajaí on their 5,000-plus nautical mile adventure towards Newport, Rhode Island, the spiritual heart of yacht racing, at least in this country, if not also beyond. Cowes and Newport, they're pretty much up there in everybody's book, including and especially mine. It was a close-fought battle after the start. They did a couple of laps inshore before then blasting out into the ocean, although it was pretty light, with no one wanting to concede an inch to a rival crew, according to the Ocean Race press release. What appeared to be great starts by 11th Hour Racing and Guillot Environment Team Europe, with the two boats right on the starting line at full speed as the starting gun fired, turned out to be a little too good. The two Amocas were judged to have crossed the line a fraction early and were forced to turn back and restart. It was an expensive mistake which left the way clear for Biotherm to take the early lead ahead of Team Militia and Team Wholesome PRB. But as you'll see, 11th Hour Racing, at least last I looked, had climbed back into the lead. Maybe one of you can check the tracker for us and see how it is going. In the meantime, here is today's race report from the Ocean Race. Oh, I'm supposed to read this. Fortunately, no one was hurt. They had this squall, and the crew was able to recover. They got tacked, in fact, by a big, if I remember well. Team Alicia's new crew member is already proving to be an asset.
The fact being, out there, just connecting with the sea, with the cloud, with the elements, and so most of the time you can do that with this boat because if you go outside, you're completely wet or it's dangerous.
So you feel better, Nico, today?
Yeah, much better.
He got smacked in the nose, Nico Lundman.
The lip is perfect, the nose, no pain. It's a bit annoying, but it's okay.
As the teams continue to sail north and east, the fleet is still bunched tightly together. Although they separated a bit overnight. Conditions on the water have been light and shifting, requiring the sailors to be constantly vigilant and ready to adjust tactics.
There's just a lot of random cloudage going on here, and it's not really going our way.
I told Mary it's her turn to play. She can have a go at playing tricky conditions. Try and make the boat go fast with Mariana.
The moment Team Wholesome PRB is doing their thing leading, well, that was earlier this morning. The next few days will be critical as the teams fight for position with more stable and high-speed sailing to come. Today's race report from the Ocean Race. And I have the tracker from a couple hours ago showing it's very close between 11th Hour Racing showing in the lead by just 7 miles. And of course, it's when you're this far away from the finish line of trying to say what the distance to the finish is when it's 4,755 nautical miles for the leader 11th or ostensible leader 11th Hour Racing and 4,762.4 nautical. Okay, how the computer judges that. But it's it's too close to call. Team Alicia and Gio Environment have slipped back, but there is a lot of race left. Clark Chapin did one of his magnificent charts for us this morning, showing the average speeds. And you can see the 11th hour racing started slowly and then picked up their act, got their act together. And at least as of a couple hours ago, I haven't gone and checked, and I didn't put it up on the monitor to see what the tracker says right now. But Wholesome PRB in second, Biotherm in third, and Malizia fourth, Gio Environment in fifth. Hello, Neil Caruso's joined, I see. Anybody have a look at the tracker for us? And if you do, let us know. Thanks, Clark Chapin, for that chart. And he provided a couple, and he'll be doing that, I guess. Clark, you'll be doing that throughout this leg as they make their way north to Newport, Rhode Island. 11th hour racing in the lead. They tweeted out just before we went there, high energy levels on board, according to Amory Ross, who's their OBR, onboard reporter, who reports a great deal of excitement looking ahead to their home port of Newport. Just need to race the 5,550 nautical miles to get there. Gordon Smith saying, I just checked the live tracker and I find their heading versus the prevailing wind really odd. It is as though they can barely sail into the wind. Well, there's some truth to all of that. Right now, it's where you are east-west and north-south. The lead three are spread out east-west, but very close north-south. Good point. So too close to call, and we'll be following that race, of course, as many of you are interested in it, as are we. This day in history, do you know what happened on this day in history, the 25th of April? And we already covered Anzac Day, so it's not going to be a repeat of that. This day in history, the year before AC 0, 1850. And here is your first clue. And if anyone gets this off the first clue, I will be impressed. Man, that is a hairdo and a beard, isn't it? Anybody know who that is? Arguably, another one of these forebears to what we are doing here now with live streaming, modern day communications. His name, this will be a clue, Paul Julius. He was turned out to be a baron. That's not John Lennon's granddad, Sweeney's saying. Steve Gruber, David Crosby. No, he looks a bit like Crosby. Paul Julius Reuter, born in Germany, grew up, emigrated to and ended up in Great Britain, 1816 to 1899. That is Captain WWW. Hi, Jody Shields. He's awake down there in Sydney where it's 06:48 in the morning. Reuters News Service. Good point, Gordon Smith. That is the founder of the Reuters News Service. But what did he do on this day in history? Yeah, Ed Worley's got it, News Service. They all saw his name. And it was Reuters, not Reuters. Now today it's called, I think technically it's Reuters News Service, but everybody calls it Reuters. Well, he was Paul Reuter. He was born Israel Beer Yosefat. There's the name. Jody will like that name. Later ennobled as Freiherr von Reuter, Baron von Reuter. Was a German-born British entrepreneur who was a pioneer of telegraphy and news reporting. He was a reporter, media owner, and the founder of the Reuters. See, they did put an S on it. Reuters News Agency, which became part of the Thomson Reuters conglomerate in 2008. Did he hire Tucker's great-grandfather? No, but Gordon Smith's got it. Use pigeons to share stock prices. That is it. It was on this day. There was going to be the next clue. You see that little thing around his leg? That's I was wondering where the pigeons carried their messages. And apparently they had that little, looks like a bit like a beer keg, doesn't it? Right? Jody, doesn't it? Around his knee or his leg anyway. And that is a carrier pigeon. And in 1850, this day in 1850, Julius Reuter started a news and stock price information service using carrier pigeons between Brussels and Aachen, Germany, using 45 trained birds. There was a telegraph gap of 76 miles between Brussels and Aachen. The birds were sent each day by rail to Brussels, and they flew back to Aachen with the information. Their flight only took 2 hours, much quicker than by rail, and it worked well. So well that it continued only for another year until 1851. This continued until the telegraph gap was closed in the first quarter of 1851, the year, of course, of the first America's Cup and that famous race around the Isle of Wight. So on this day in history, 1850, Reuter, later Baron Reuter, established the carrier pigeon service to transmit stock prices. How cool is that? I think he later sold his business model to Fox News. We won't talk about Tucker Carlson on today's show, who got separated from Fox News last night, as some of you will know. Now Wall Street is full of bloody pigeons, Graham Sweeney is John Emmett's Coach Yourself to Win. It is very sad. We used to use pigeons a lot, but when they became no longer of use, we let them go wild. Have you seen how many there are in Trafalgar Square? Oh, what a fun group we have, and funny. That's what happened on this day in history, the 25th of April, back in 1850, the year before AC0. Now, just a quick note. We've got this cool event, this World Match Racing Tour. The Women's World Match Racing Tour started yesterday. It's going on this week, 24th through the 28th. The Swedish team is here. There's an American team, Nicole Briot, and so on. But I just grabbed two of the pictures to commemorate the start of this event. As I mentioned at the top of the show, James Pleasance is here. Hope to have a cocktail, if not dinner with him this week. Our Fozy, who's been on the show any number of times. Cool pictures. And also, it's nice when clubs, sailing associations, teams send me hand feed the information, spoon feed the information, because now that I'm a journalist, I'm basically lazy. We like to be hand fed. But how nice it was to see the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron post on their Facebook page. They are so proud of this team. And they said the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron is proud to have the only Australian team competing in the Women's World Match Racing Tour. This is our first team to ever represent the squadron on the WMRWT. Well, it's the first time there's been a tour, a women's tour per se. It's been a women's world championship, but not a tour. Brooke Wilson, who's a member of the team, said, she's, I think, second from left, who is helming, she said, "We are ecstatic to be here in San Francisco, sailing among some of the best female match racers. The girls begin their campaign in San Francisco yesterday, the 24th, and runs through the 28th. In the what's called Casa Vela Cup, hosted by St. Francis Yacht Club. Then they make their way across the country to Annapolis, where they compete on Chesapeake Bay for the Santa Maria Cup out of Eastport Yacht Club in Annapolis. And left to right there, Gemma Burns, Brooke Wilson, Tiana Whitty. She related to any of our other witty Australian friends, must be. And Emily Kegg. Nice group, and great congratulations to all the teams. We'll cover this in more depth on Friday's show. Also, while we're on Australia, this great photo came out in press release, and I use this to lead into the announcement of the dozen teams that are competing in both the youth and the women's match racing. That's John Winning Jr. on the left of Big Boat fame, and also Andrew Comanche and so on, but also of the 18-foot circuit, and his dad, John Winning Sr., Nita Curtis, who's not been on the show, but she's partnered up with Olivia Price for the women's team, and of course our longtime friend since 1983, when he won the America's Cup for Australia, famously, John Bertrand, and he is the patron of the Australian team, which was announced a couple days ago, and we're going to do some more. We've had Olivia Price on the show when she did her announcement of her women's team. They assumed they'd get accepted into the whole big deal, and they did. Here's Olivia on the left and Nina on the right. And the announcement has come down from AC37, from ACE, about all the teams involved, and there are fully 12 teams: Spain, Netherlands, Canada, Germany, Sweden, Australia, of course, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Switzerland, Italy, the USA, and France. The teams out of France, USA, Italy, Switzerland, New Zealand, and the UK there on the right are all associated with their America's Cup teams. The teams on the left are fresh out of the box teams, as notably this Australian team. And bravo, that's it. And bravo Zulu to them all. Delighted to see that all 12 teams have been taken up. There's fleet racing in these AC40s that are, somebody said we should be keeping a pitch pole and a nosedive and a capsize list. Maybe one of you take that up for us. But bravo Zulu, I'm glad it's happening. And it looks like a great field of teams for the Women's and Youth America's Cups in Barcelona next year. Gets us to the last leg in record time, under an hour here. And I want to make this note because you know who this guy is. And the New Zealand Herald, stuff.co.nz, broke this story about, and several of you sent it to me, thank you, about Glenn Ashby. After twice setting a new world land speed record, as you know, we've covered it extensively here on this show, he's now retiring from the America's Cup. He's hung up his proverbial jock, as I said in the show notes. This was the headline from Stuff. Glenn Ashby ends America's Cup career, eyes another world speed record. Yes, Glenn is retiring. Team New Zealand great Glenn Ashby has declared his America's Cup racing days are over, and he wants to push into another speed record bid. The 45-year-old who won the 2010 America's Cup with us, with Oracle, and then joined Team New Zealand where he skippered the 2017 victory in Bermuda. Didn't helm, but he skippered it, and was key to the 2021 defense at home, indeed he was, is fresh off a wind-assisted world land speed record in South Australia. Now, he is targeting the world speed sailing record of 65.45 knots, 121.1 kilometers per hour. With their technology brilliance, Team New Zealand will again be behind the speed project. Ashby's vision is for 2025 and believes Auckland could dish up the right conditions to set a new mark. I think over there, what they call the paddock. So we'll be following that as well. Bravo Zulu to Glenn. He's one of the most decorated multi-hull sailors in the world. He's won, 12, 13, 14 world championships and God knows what else. It is a top-notch bloke. He's just a terrific guy. Known him since forever. Not well, but he's there and he's always says hi and he's always pleasant. And he's just really a decent guy. And, we've had this discussion on here. This America's Cup game is not for, folks that are getting old and their reflexes are getting a little slower, like mine. But, of course, Glenn's 45, not 70. But I think even 45, and that's the same age as Ben Ainsley, as I've had this discussion with a couple of you. But when you get, you've got your star, and it looks like they're going to have one on each wheel, but you've got your star, Pete Burling, on one wheel, and you've got Nathan Outeridge apparently on the other wheel. That's what it's looking like in their trialing down there so far. So Glenn said, or maybe they said to Glenn, I'm sure he's going to coach. I'm sure he's going to help. He will be a big and positive influence on their America's Cup defense in Barcelona. With only 4 sailors on the AC-75s, Glenn could have gotten squeezed out. I wish him well, a superb sailor and personality. Stingray is saying, shocking news for TNZ, huge loss for the team. Mark Reed said, well, I'm not sure, Mark, how huge a loss it is. I think he's going to be involved. I just don't think he's going to be on the boat for all the reasons we've just discussed. Gordon Smith agrees with me. He thinks that the fleet racing in the AC-40s for the women's and the youth is going to be rather hazardous and difficult. Mark Reed is saying they seem to capsize almost every day or every other day, so it will be a long list. Yeah, Glenn is retiring. What else? There's some other comments back and forth. I had Nina on my podcast. Great guest, Jody Shields. Maybe we'll get Nina back on here too. And as I said, we're going to cover all of that in. I'm very fond of the Price family, as you know, particularly Harry and Olivia. I mean, their parents too, but we've had Harry on here and Olivia and the whole Pricey family, all four of them. So we'll see if we can get Olivia and Nina on here next time. It is Nev Whitty's daughter. Jody Shields is saying thank you. So the gal we were seeing who's sailing here, right, for the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron in this women's World Match Racing Tour event here at St. Francis is Nev Whitty's daughter, and Nev's a lot of fun. Good judge too, or umpire. At least he was at one point. Any other comments apropos all of this kind of Aussie focus? Julie Ahrens, who has an inside track on things ETNZ because she and her husband are close to Grant Dalton. He is not leaving the team. He is not going to be on the boat. Yeah, that's what I suspected, Julie. Thanks for that. Keep us posted, Julie. She's always got the good oil, as the Kiwis would say, the good oil on the America's Cup and ETNZ. Stingray is also saying, what are they do nothing but bicycling? Something, $N, he means some number of sailors do nothing but bicycling. It's a bit ridiculous. I agree. Julie Aronson, he'll be doing some commentary. That is, I assume she means Glenn, and I think you're probably right. Okay, gets us to the finish line. It's a short show, an hour. What time is it here? It's a minute after 2 here in San Francisco, so just basically over an hour. We had a bit of a busy morning here, so I didn't throw quite as much into the show as I might have otherwise, but that leaves it for Friday. Nice thing about doing 2 shows a week, Tuesday and Friday. Bill Wingrove down at Davis Island Yacht Club in Tampa for this photo. Thank you. And I have one funny, a Whiskey Tango Foxtrot funny, because the others, frankly, were too dirty. We had some that were pretty dirty that you sent me. And without Julia here, she's not here, as we mentioned, and with no Julia here to shake her finger, I didn't think it was appropriate to run any dodgy or marginal funnies here. So it's a clean one, but it does, the person in the corner, I guess that's a gentleman, maybe he does have a glass of wine, Jody, in your honor, in his hand. Maybe we should ask him to join us. He looks cannelloni. It's clean. He looks cannelloni. Thank you, Graham Sweeney. Graham sends a lot of them. Awesome sailing coverage on the show so far today. As the cherry on top, any chance we can see Julia's friend, Elevator Man? Stingray. Well, no, there's the Beach Street Yacht Club Burgee, which is, hangs up here over the control room. Back there behind those closet doors, you think that's just a closet here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. It's really, that's really the control room where our staff of 25 are in there switching the show and running the audio and doing everything else. Is that The Simpsons? It's The Simpsons. Is it? I don't think so. Maybe it is. But Graham Sweeney's saying it's the only clean joke I have. He sent some good ones. So do a bunch of others of you. Greg Phillips down in Australia sent one today that was hilarious. But we're going to have some fun with Joe Biden now throwing his proverbial hat back in the presidential ring. Trump, of course, already in. Maybe Tucker Carlson's going to run for president. This is going to be a mad year and a half going forward between now and the election in November of 2024. We got a lot of stuff on the water to cover, so we won't talk too much about the U.S. presidential politics, sad in many ways as they are. We're going to have a guy who's going to be in his mid-80s if he gets elected, and it's not going to happen. So what is this? Left to right, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Homer. Steve Gruber, you guys know all this stuff. You're culturally much more aware than I. If Julia were here right now, she could probably hear it through the ceiling. You can shout it out, Julia. Please like, follow, and share. Comments are welcome, even in replay, as you all know. We appreciate your support via Patreon. Become a patron at patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you to all of you, and for this somewhat shorter than usual show. Maybe it's better to have a somewhat shorter show. It's easier for me, that's for sure, especially when we don't have Julia here to keep me on the straight and narrow. Scott Poole. Sorry, Chris Poole. I'm sorry I called you Scott. Any final thoughts from anybody, including Homer doesn't drink wine, he drinks Duff beer, Sweeney is saying. A food campaign might involve repeated assaults on the Capitol. Okay, Stingray. Gordon Smith, yep, thanks to you. Thanks, everybody, for having a nice joining us for this show. And we hope to see you on Friday. And in the meantime, if you can, go sailing. Bloody hell, go sailing. Especially now that it's warming up here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's still nice down in the Southern Hemisphere. See you on Friday. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.